Very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I extend a very warm welcome to the distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and all the participants. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this special event, which is put together by the Network of Women in ITUT, hosted by the Department of Telecommunications, Ministry of Communications of the Government of India, being held here in New Delhi during the World Telecommunications Standardization Assembly, WTSA-24. Ladies and gentlemen, so at the very outset, we will begin with the lighting of the lamp to open this event. In India, the lighting of the lamp traditionally signifies a very auspicious beginning to any event and carries a profound symbolic meaning, representing the dispelling of darkness and the dawn of knowledge. This ancient ritual serves as a beacon of hope and enlightenment, setting the stage for the important discussions and actions that lie ahead. In this spirit, we will commence today's inaugural program with the lighting of the lamp ceremony, and we are indeed privileged to invite to the stage the esteemed dignitaries who are going to be joining us for this ceremony and leading this ceremony. So may I take the privilege of inviting Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Secretary General, ITU. Let's welcome her. Dr. Rim Belhassin Sharif, Chair, Network of Women in ITUT. May I invite you? And let's welcome her by extending a hand. Dr. Hyung Jun Kim, Vice Chair, Network of Women in ITUT. Ms. Madhu Arora, Member Technology Digital Communication Commission, Department of Technology, Department of Telecommunications, ladies and gentlemen, Ministry of Communications of the Government of India. And I'd like to invite Ms. Deepika Pokharna, Deputy Director General, Department of Telecommunications, and also the coordinator of Network of Women from DOT to kindly grace the stage. So ladies, I request you to please grace the stage and light the inaugural lamp. May I request for the wick so that we can begin with the lighting of the lamp ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, when we light the lamp in India, we often chant the following shloka: Shubham karoti kalyanam, arogyam dhanasampada, shatru buddhi vinashaya deepajyotir namostute. Which means, we pray to you. And as the lamp is being lit, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our esteemed dignitaries. And there we go again. Thank you so much, esteemed dignitaries. And now we're going to need a group photograph of all of you with the lamp. So I'm going to request you to please pose for that group photograph. Post which, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to hold back Secretary General ITU, Ms. Doreen, and Chair, NOW in ITUT, Dr. Rim, to kindly stay back with us and grace the dais with their presence. I thank you very much, Dr. Kim, Ms. Madhu Arora. There's one more picture required. Ms. Deepika Pokharna, I thank you very much, esteemed dignitaries, for doing the honors. So I request Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin and Dr. Rim Belhassin Sharif to please be seated on that dais. And I thank Dr. Hyung Jun Kim, Vice Chair, NOW in ITUT, Ms. Madhu Arora, Member Technology Digital Communication Commission, Department of Telecommunications, and Ms. Deepika Pokharna, Deputy Director General, DOT, and Coordinator of NOW from DOT. Thank you very much for lighting the inaugural lamp. Ladies and gentlemen, today's event marks a very significant milestone in our collective journey towards promoting gender equality in the field of information and communication technologies. And this special event is going to highlight the incredible work which is being done to advance women's participation in ITU standardization activities with a special focus on inspiring the next generation of women leaders in STEM. So we join together today to celebrate, learn, and advocate for the critical role of women in shaping our digital future. We are indeed very privileged to have with us the ITU Secretary General, Ms. Doreen Bogdan Martin. And Ms. Doreen Bogdan Martin from the United States made history in 2022 as the first woman ever elected in this role in ITU's 159 years history, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely shattering the glass ceiling. A committed advocate for gender equality, the ITU Secretary General has championed initiatives like the ITU Equals and numerous gender mainstreaming policies within ITU, advancing inclusion and equity at every level. ITU Secretary General Ms. Doreen is also part of the global board and active champion of the International Gender Champions, committing to the panel parity pledge and the gender-based violence pledge, promoting zero tolerance of gender-based violence, sexist attitudes, and behaviors. And very recently, Ms. Doreen became a champion of the UNFPA Equity 2030 Alliance to accelerate gender equity in science, technology, and financing in order to close the digital divide. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to now request Ms. Doreen Bogdan Martin to render the opening remarks. Madam, please. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Doreen Bogdan Martin.
Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to address you this morning. I must say this room is very colorful. I love that. You all look very beautiful in your saris. Really, it's wonderful to be here, and I think this event is really important. As we look to standardization and as we look around in the rooms here in New Delhi at the WTSA, I think it's fair to say we have a lot more work to do, and I'm confident that we will do it. I thought I would start with a quote. Sunday was the Chicago Marathon, and I don't know if I have any friends from Kenya in the room. There we go. Okay, Kenya, way to go. So Ruth from Kenya, she won the Chicago Marathon, the women's part of the Chicago Marathon. And not only did she break the world record, but she broke it by 2 whole minutes, which is incredible when it comes to a marathon. So why do I mention Ruth? Because Ruth was someone who is determined. She doesn't give up. And soon after she finished the marathon, she said, "Nothing is impossible in life." So let's remember that. Nothing is impossible in life, including achieving gender balance in the digital space, including the standardization space. So let's remember that. I also thought I would share a little story about how far we have come, but as I said, we still have much work to be done. We had a visit from the UN Secretary General a couple of months ago to the ITU headquarters in Geneva during the ITU Council, and it was actually 70 years since the last Secretary General had visited an ITU Council meeting. And in preparing for the SG's welcome last June, we were looking back in our records, and we found the transcript of the last visit of the SG 70 years ago. And the proceedings went a little bit like this. The MC stood in front of the crowd and said, "Gentlemen." He then repeated, "Gentlemen." And yes, we laugh because there were really no women. There were actually, in a full room, there were 2, but perhaps they weren't dressed as colorfully as you are, so they couldn't be seen. And I think that way that session started, "Gentlemen, gentlemen," it was pretty clear that we had a great imbalance. We still have an imbalance today, but we are making progress. In particular, when we look out to this room. And I do want to thank you all for coming. I know we have many competing events today, and thank you for being here, and thank you to the gentlemen also for joining, because your participation in this network and in supporting women is absolutely, absolutely critical. And I do want to thank my partner in crime, our amazing, passionate chair of the Network of Women, the vice chair of the network, of course, our regional representatives, and of course, the Secretariat. A big thanks to you in particular, Charlene, for pushing this forward and for advancing this Network of Women for WTSA campaign. We also have a number of countries in the room that have been big supporters, helping to provide fellowships, helping to enable women delegates to be at the WTSA. So thank you for that. I think boosting women's participation in standards development is just one example of how we can, step by step, move the needle to ensure that standards represent the collective aspirations of all of humanity. And this is really critical if we want to make real progress when it comes to digital inclusion. And when we look to the work of the ITU, we have our sort of guiding resolution from the plenipotentiary, that's Resolution 70. And of course, here at the WTSA, we have our Resolution 55, so those serve as guiding references. We did set a target for this WTSA, maybe we'll achieve it by the end of next week, which was to have 35% of women's participation in this WTSA. We're not yet there. I think, Charlene, we're at 26%. But again, I'm hopeful. We also see gender equality prioritized in the recent UN Pact of the Future that was adopted at the Summit of the Future a couple of weeks ago. And its annex is the Global Digital Compact, which also has a number of strong references committing to the importance of gender empowerment and gender equality. So I think that's also critical. Next year, we're going to be marking 30 years since the Beijing Platform of Action. And so I think it's also an important moment that we support each other and we try to make a difference in correcting the imbalance that we see today. You have created a space where women can share stories, where women can learn from each other, and where women can also celebrate each other's achievements. And I think my message to all of you today is, let's keep going. Let's keep going. I recently read an article which actually shocked me, I would say, and it was about women's health tech. So health things for women. And according to this article, it actually said that women's health tech companies are less likely to get funding if a woman is on the founding team, even if she's paired with a male counterpart. Now, does that make any sense? If you're creating women's health tech, you can't get funding because a woman is on the founding team. Female founders are also less likely to succeed if they include phrases like women's rights in their pitches. And here we're talking about digital products that are made for women. And so we need to make sure that they're also made by women. I think my message really is that we can and we must, I would say, do better. We must boost the number of delegates at this WTSA, and I believe that we can do it. We must boost that number of women's leadership when it comes to our standards study groups. We must have more women taking the floor, and I hope that this network also encourages and inspires women to feel comfortable to push that button and to take the floor and to make their voices heard. And we also need to help each other through mentoring. I know it's difficult sometimes to find the time to mentor, but mentoring is also critical, and that's a key part of the network of women. One of my favorite expressions, sayings about breaking the glass ceiling is that if there is no seat at the table, you have to bring your own chair. And so sometimes that doesn't make us comfortable because we have to be more assertive. But if there's no chair for us, and I can tell you throughout my career, many times, even if there was a chair, sometimes it was taken away when I approached it. Let's bring our own chair. And at the same time, let's bring another chair so that we can welcome our mentees. Be the reason that a young woman has chosen to enter and excel in the field of standardization. And I'm really excited that today we're going to meet some amazing award winners. I look forward to hearing from you, hearing about your creative ideas about how women can take their rightful place as digital leaders in standards development and also in digital policy, the tech industry, and of course in STEM more broadly. So ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to our discussion, and I firmly believe that together we can change the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Doreen, for establishing the context for this event of great significance, and your message uplifts us and also reminds us of the importance of women supporting each other and persevering, so encourages us to keep going. Thank you very much again. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my privilege to introduce and then invite Dr. Rim Belhassin Sharif. She is currently the Chief Innovation and Strategy Officer and responsible on the digital transformation activity at Tunisia's incumbent telecom operator, Tunisia Telecom. She is a general telecommunication engineer who also holds a PhD and an executive MBA. Dr. Rim previously served as Vice Chair of TSAG, SG13, and Focus Group Innovation, as well as Rapporteur on Standardization Strategy. And she is currently the Chair of SG13's Regional Group for Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium Dr. Rim Belhassin Sharif, NOW and ITUT Chair. I'm going to request her to please render the welcome remarks.
Good morning, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to welcome you to the Network Women special event at WTSA-24, and I would like to express really my sincere gratitude to our honorable guests for accepting our invitation. Your presence is not only an honor for us, but also a strong statement of your dedication to promoting gender equality in ITUT activities in general and in this WTSA in particular. I would also like to take this opportunity to express my profound gratitude to the host country, India, for graciously hosting this important event, and I truly appreciate the cordiality and hospitality extended to us. Today's event, it's the 5th now in ITUT events, and the 3rd to be held alongside a WTSA, following the events in Hammamet, Tunisia during WTSA 2016 and Geneva during WTSA 2022. This event provides an opportunity to share thought-provoking perspectives by high-profile women in STEM on career advancement and strategies for inclusivity, leadership, promotion, and breaking barriers in the digital technology industry. It will also look into how standards can promote inclusive artificial intelligence and ensure an equitable future. In addition, this event marks the conclusion of the Now for WTSA-24 campaign, launched during the Now breakfast at TISAG last January, and which set some ambition. We have very ambitious goals, and especially our goals was to increase female participation in this WTSA-24, to have more gender-balanced delegations and more women appointed as heads of delegations, and to increase the number of qualified women nominated for ITUT leadership positions. In order to advance the campaign's objectives, the Now in ITUT governance has expanded to include 6 regional representatives, and the campaign have been promoted through dedicated presentations at the regional preparation and preparatory meetings for WTSA-24 held across ITU regions. Additionally, a number of regional activities, such as panel discussions, training sessions, and tutorials were held from May to August 2024, in conjunction with the regional preparatory meetings for regional groups. As a result of this campaign, and according to the statistics for physically present participants up until yesterday, the overall participation rate of women reached the highest rate of any WTSA conducted outside Geneva. So this is the record here in India, outside Geneva. Thank you. Besides, I'm pleased to report that the campaign's objective of raising the number of female candidates for the assembly posts and the ITU leadership positions was achieved. The percentage of female heads of delegation has increased significantly as well, and the data reveals both gender-balanced delegations and delegations where the rate of female delegated exceeds that of male delegates, sometimes even hitting 100%. I would like to state that this campaign was an exceptional experience that demonstrates a strong commitment to advancing gender equality in ITUT activities, as well as an important support from all the regions in this regards. The campaign also provided an excellent opportunity to promote the Now's objectives and raise awareness among women delegates, particularly newcomers, about the WTSA and the value of taking part in the standardization process. We hope to launch similar campaigns for the upcoming assemblies, and I invite all countries to continue supporting the Now's initiative. All distinguished delegates are kindly invited to join network by signing up for the mailing list, which is now in ITUT at lists.itu.int. This will enable you to get better informed about the future Now's activities, including the mentoring program planned for the next year, 2025. Distinguished participants, women's involvement in the ICT standardization process is not only beneficial, it's vital, especially given the rise of new disruptive technologies like artificial intelligence. In this new technological era, ensuring strong and meaningful participation of women in the standardization process, where they can share their perspectives and insights, will help in the development of inclusive, equitable, and sustainable ICT standards with the potential to accelerate technological progress for the benefit of all humanity. So let's continue working together to make sure that women's voice is acknowledged and heard during the standardization process, paving the way for a better future for everyone. At the end of my speech, I would like to extend my sincere thanks to the ITU Secretary General, Mrs. Doreen Bogdan Martin, the TSB Director, Mrs. Seizo Onoe, the Deputy to the TSB Director, Dr. Bilal Jamoussi, for their strong and continuous support for the Now's activities. I would also like to express my profound gratitude to the Regional Telecommunications Organization, the host countries, the partners, moderators, panelists, coaches, and to everyone who contributed to make the NOW's regional activities a big success. Special thanks goes to our amazing NOW's team, including our 6 regional representatives for WTSA-24, our Vice Chair, Dr. Hyung Jun Kim, our coordinator, Mrs. Charlene Restivo, and our TSB Secretariat team for their tremendous efforts and continued and hard work. I wish you all a fruitful event and a productive and successful WTSA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rim, for delivering such insightful, pertinent, and endearing welcome remarks. With that, we have to thank Dr. Rim. May I kindly now request you, Dr. Rim, to take your place with the audience as we prepare to transition to our next segment. A huge round of applause once again, ladies and gentlemen, for Dr. Rim Belhassin Sharif, the NOW and ITUT Chair. Thank you very much, madam. And now we begin with the high-level fireside chat, which is going to be moderated by the ITU Secretary General, Ms. Doreen. I would also like to invite our distinguished speakers who are going to be joining us on the dais for this conversation. We have with us the Honorable Minister, Her Excellency Dr. Aminata Zerbo Saban, Minister of Digital Transformation, Post and Communications, Burkina Faso. Let's welcome her to the stage with a round of applause. A very warm welcome to you, madam. Warm welcome to you, Your Excellency. And now may I invite Ms. Neha Satak, CEO Astrom Technologies, to kindly join us on stage. There she is. Let's welcome her, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Neha Satak, CEO Astrom Technologies. Warm welcome to you. With that, I will now request Secretary General ITU, Ms. Doreen, to kindly take over the proceedings. Madam.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we often hear the expression, if you can see it, you can be it. So ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and privilege to be moderating this fireside chat with 2 amazing women leaders. Looking forward to our conversation. But before I dive in, I also want to recognize the TSB Director, Onoe-san, for backing this incredible effort and for your leadership and support. Thank you so much, Director. Thank you. And to his right, we also have Yaroslav Ponder, who's our head for the European region. And I recognize Yaroslav because he's always pushing us to do more when it comes to women and pushing for a sort of connection amongst our different regional groups and sectoral groups. So thank you for pushing us, Yaroslav, and for being such a great example of a he for she. So thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to dive into our chat this morning. We're going to start off with Her Excellency. We have with us, as you heard from the MC, we have Her Excellency Aminata Zerbo. She is the Minister de la transition digitale et des postes et des communications électroniques. Long title, big responsibilities. And I have had the pleasure of working with Aminata for many years. We often cross each other, whether it's in New York or Geneva or elsewhere, and she's really doing an amazing job in Burkina Faso and also in the African region. And we also have, and this is like a perfect, I think, match in the conversation, another true trailblazer, I would say, Neha, who is the co-founder and CEO of Astrom Technologies. So looking forward to that conversation. And we'll start off with you, Madam Minister, and perhaps if you could share, when we think about our life journeys, our professional and personal journeys, if you could share with us maybe like that defining moment, if there's one or if there's several, of your career and how you've been able to overcome challenges that have helped to shape your leadership style and also inspire others as they may face some obstacles when it comes to STEM fields. Madam Minister, over to you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Minister. What a role model we have here, ladies and gentlemen. Great messages on solidarity, supporting each other, do it for yourself, something that's often hard for women in particular, the importance of confidence, and also an example here of resilience. She survived long Canadian winters. That's a tough one. Thank you. So now we're going to turn over to you, to Neha, who is, as I said, a trailblazer. An aerospace engineer. Love to hear how that sparked your interest. And of course, you've also been recognized by our Equals program back in 2019. If you could share kind of what fueled that determination that you had, and any challenges that also helped shape your leadership style. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Doreen. I'm really grateful that I've had a very interesting life, I would say. And I think it's the problems that you face in life that shapes you most. So I've had like two instances that I wanted to share with you. One in which I discovered about something about myself, and a second one which actually shaped, shaped my thinking of how success is achieved. I was in school, like a student, and there was this professor. He basically was looking for somebody to volunteer for a leadership position, and he asked the whole class, who wants to take that position. So everybody's hand went up except mine, because I thought I cannot do it. So my hand was down, and I was probably 10 years old, 12 years old. And that professor, I don't know what happened to him, but he said, okay, you're going to do it, because your hand is down. And that was quite surprising for me. I was like this quiet kid, always in my mind thinking things. And suddenly this person just thrust me in front of, as a leader. And I did a good job at that particular opportunity. And that made me realize that that one person who took a chance on me, when I myself was not confident that I can do it, that changed the whole, the way I thought about myself. And I think these chances are something that, maybe we can give in our positions that we are in, we can give to others, who are around us. So that was something that was amazing. I still thank that professor, for doing that, for me. The second instance is related to, again, I did my master's and PhD. But in my master's, we were in India at that time, actually. People were still trying to make small UAVs, small drones. And it was very, very difficult problem. Nobody had actually um, achieved actually making a small UAV which can actually, be hand launched and, flown. So when I joined my master's program, I was extremely excited. Yes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to learn everything, that is possible. I'm going to make it with my hands. 1 year into the program, every attempt we made to fly the thing that I made failed, miserably failed. Like it just won't fly for whatever. And we just put everything we had, including my professor, into the design. And my professor was like, nah, I think you won't be able to do it. So he was kind of very disappointed, and I was feeling the burden of his disappointment, and it was like a very big cloud over me. Um, he went for a month for his sabbatical to UK, and somehow that cloud got removed. And I was like, let me try something. Let me do something else. And I totally changed the design. And by the time he came back, it was flying. And and the guy who used to fly, the pilot who used to fly it, so I told my professor, I'm going to show it to you, it flies. So he said, I'm not sure if it flies. So we took him early in the morning. The pilot was like, no, no, you should believe her. It flies. I have flown it. So my professor like, nah, take me to the field. So we all went early in the morning, and there goes the thing, and it flies. And my professor was like, if I didn't see it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have believed it. So that was like a really defining moment for me, because I realized that if you persist and you don't give up, it's going to happen. So, and I think I've had reinforcement of that throughout my career. That was just the first one. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Persistence, determination, don't give up. What a great example you are. And I want to perhaps continue with you for a moment. So you're a tech entrepreneur, and we often understand in the tech sector as a whole that we have this problem of kind of this leaky pipeline. So if we succeed in getting women into the workforce, they leave. And so from your perspective, how can we create a work culture, a work space that encourages, supports, and motivates women to stay with the sector, in particular when it comes to startups?
Yes. I've had quite a lot of experience on that, because I try to recruit more women into my team. And many a times these are young women who join when they are 24, 25. They're not married. At least in India, it's like a lot of social pressure to get married and have kids. That's kind of a really, really big social pressure. And once you have kids, then your workforce, your workplace starts discounting you, saying that, okay, maybe now you won't be serious about your job. And your family asks you, to put in less into your work, because it's just a job. You need to take care of your kid, you need to do this. And many a times, actually, women are told, at least in India, to leave the job once they have children. So I've had girls in my team who got married in front of me, had kids, and so there are two kind of changes that I did in my organization. That I'm not sure we are 100% successful, but at least we have some data points that people stuck around. So firstly, I don't let any girl, if they have kids or they're married, to take their job lightly. So I do go personally and tell them that, I am relying on you for this work. So there is that association, there's that dependency. And I think women are more dependable, I must say. That's what I feel. I mean, honest feedback. I tell that to the team, the guys in my team as well, that no, women are more dependable. But it's just that you gotta have that reliable. You need to tell them that you are relying on them. The second thing is flexible work hours, because when a woman gives birth and they have to take care of the baby, I mean, that's a real thing. You cannot ignore it. You cannot say that no, it's going to be business as usual, and it's 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and that's what it is. So I gave a lot of flexibility to like women in my team who were having kids, work hours, but I expected work from them. You have to do your work. Whenever you do it, you do it. I don't mind. So that kind of probably helped retain, some of the women in my company. But I don't think that's like the end of it. Maybe there are some more things that we can do. But I thought these two things were important.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you for sharing that. And Minister Aminata, I mean, from your perspective and some of the actions that you've taken in Burkina Faso, can you share with us some of the strategies that you think have been most effective? Over to you.
Unfortunately, first answer we propose for we'll find all the excuses involved those that once is there, that's the job. So we have to encourage women. One of my best moments this year is young and also the acts of young girls in our tech program for girls. After a few sessions, they were able to help what the simple act they developed can do. This experience made them more confident. Go to STEM fields. It convinced me that one of the best instruments for to train them was early technology. Try to do concrete things. Way they will get confidence. They know by themselves that they are able. And I think give them the chance even to have picked a field that even today like this for me like really forcing work of exercise. Another thing is to create a supportive environment for girls. Scholarship programs also can be a barrier for families don't have they prefer to push the boys. It can help girls can keep pursue their studies. The third idea is for women that already in the domain. How to make them progress, how to do that they will be position. As we said, to think, to propose them, encourage them, options, also create where women are model building, but also some soft skills, be able to be more confident and do the job. As a native French speaker, I know that the language is a barrier for many of us. In those kind of network, we can programs to learn English and be more confident. Regional level or international level. Because those organizations also, we need to have women. Work for that, to have women and be sure that women perspectives, women needs are took into policies and all initiatives.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And very concrete. And I love the focus on early, because that's something we talk about a lot in the ITU. We have to get to younger girls and to getting to them early. We have our Girls on ICT Day program. We have our Girls Can Code effort. Today we have the robotics competition, which is also attracting a lot of brilliant young girls, I should say, and of course the importance of that supportive environment and the continuous need for capacity building, in particular in soft skills, which is something we often overlook. I know, Charlene, we're short on time, but can I ask for one or two brief comments from the crowd? Yeah, and then we're going to come back to our amazing panelist here for some words of advice. But if anyone wanted to jump in with like a short 60-second comment, the floor is open and we can share a microphone. Anyone? Okay, yes. If you could stand, and can we get a microphone, or we can hand you one from up here? Here we go. Yep, great.
Thank you very much, Doreen. I mean, this has been
Just come a little closer. I think it's on.
okay. Thank you so much. This has been extremely inspiring, and it's great to hear the stories from you ladies. And in Burkina Faso, having this inspiration for all the ladies, and Neha studying aerospace engineering, this is extremely inspirational. So a quick question for Neha is, why did you choose aerospace engineering? I get that I asked about electronics and telecommunications often. And for Aminata, what do you think is the thing we should do? Just a very quick tip on how we can inspire girls, because we in BT, I have my managing director here, Gabriella, we're from British Telecom, and it's very good. We have a colleague from policy as well, and for the first time we have an all-women delegation, which is really, really good, and in SG20 as well. We're extremely happy, and in SG20 with Dr. Kim, we work very closely, and more women have key positions of influence. So what is one thing we should do to encourage more women? And thank you so much once again.
No, thank you. So maybe one more quick comment, and then we'll turn back to our panelists. Anyone? Okay, right here in the front, please. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And it's really a great pleasure to see all the beautiful women here. So I'm Shobna and from Tata Communications. So just one comment from my side. I think you rightly pointed out, Ms. Anis, that it's not only about one single field, it's all the fields, be it about technology, be it sales. You know, women are generally not seen in sales, and this has been my personal experience that when I joined the organization Telecom, I was not being asked to do sales, while I did after 15 years was something which I was doing sales only. So a hardcore B2B, B2C sales is something which women are not seen much, and I think India is now going up to that level. We have a long way to go, I know. But I would definitely say that, you know, this is one particular field where we all should be focusing for the women, and definitely all different fields are definitely there. Technology and all the sectors are very important for women. But yes, this is one area where I see lies much more scope for women, and definitely more leadership for those, whatever. And kudos to Neha and Ms. Ines that they are sharing their experiences and making the women feel that yes, we are important.
Thank you. Thank you. Great comments. So we're gonna wrap up here, and I would invite you both to share a piece of advice, but also coming back to the question. So Neha, how did you decide to become an aerospace engineer, and also a piece of advice? Over to you.
Thank you. So I actually wanted to be in space and aerospace, like as a kid. Like I knew I was really passionate about it. And it happens that in the state where I grew up, there was no aerospace engineering. And I did electronics and communications engineering. So I became a telecom engineer first, and then I said I want to become an aerospace engineer. So that's why I went for master's and PhD. But it was pure out of passion. Yes. And the advice that I would like to just give is, I think, believe in yourself. That would be the biggest, asset that you can create. And I would say, do things to increase that self-belief, whatever you may, whatever works for you. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Minister Aminata, over to you.
Models are important. We have more and more women in our field, but they are not visible enough. I think we should be more visible. We should find time for mentorship, as Doreen said. I think this is really important. Find time to talk with girls, with women, and show that it is possible by our examples. So I think this can help. Thanks. And my advice also is believe in yourself. It is easier to say, very difficult to achieve. And we should stay working on it. And to work on it is also to work hard. When we work hard, we achieve goals, and this increases our self-confidence. Work hard also help us to learn more. Do our best, whatever we have to do. And we have to be ready for opportunities. Sometimes we say that get an opportunity is being at the right place at the right moment. But to be at this place at this moment, you should work hard to be there and to be ready to take the opportunity. Thanks.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been amazing, I think. I feel very inspired. We heard great messages from the incredible journeys of our two distinguished panelists. And I guess my takeaway, believe in yourself, be visible. I think that's also a great point. Lean in, raise your hand, and work hard. And as you said, do your best. And we often hear, put your best self first. And I think that's an important takeaway. And as I said when I spoke previously, I think that message of nothing is impossible, this conversation demonstrates right here in front of us that nothing is impossible. And it's been a pleasure to have this conversation with two amazing digital leaders. Thank you both for inspiring us this morning. Thank you.
And I thank the ITU Secretary General and our esteemed panelists for their valuable insights and contributions during this high-level fireside chat. Thank you very much. We deeply appreciate your time and your presence, as well as your perspectives. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, can we extend a round of applause for Her Excellency Dr. Aminata Zerbo Saban, Ms. Neha Satak, and of course, our ITU Secretary General. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the next part of our program, which is the recognition, award, and ceremony. And I'm going to, ladies and gentlemen, invite our presenters to join us on stage at this juncture. May I invite on stage Mr. Cizo Onoe, Director, Telecommunications Standardization Bureau, TSB, ITU, to kindly join us on stage. Warm welcome to you, sir, Mr. Cizo Onoe joining us. And our co-presenter, ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Madhu Arora, Member Technology, Digital Communication Commission, Department of Telecommunication, Ministry of Communications, Government of India. Let's welcome her. Warm welcome to you, Mr. Onoe, and I'd like to extend a very warm welcome to Ms. Arora. Welcome, ma'am. And before we begin with the presentation ceremony, I'm going to take the opportunity to request Mr. Cizo Onoe to briefly walk us through the journey and process behind these awards. If you'd like to take the cordless mic, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I'm so pleased to see you, so many friends and colleagues here today, including gentlemen. Actually, when I attended at some reception of the network women in a region, I was only male participants. So at that time, I thought that more gentlemen improvement will be encouraged. So I'm very happy to see some gentlemen. But in that sense, I very much appreciate Hyunjin Kim, your role as a vice chair of the network women. Then, anyway, thank you for joining us today. Then back to the real true story. Our members gives life to ITU. We are the global community known for our commitment to consensus, and that means commitment to moving forward together. That's exactly what our network of women is all about. I'm so glad to have this opportunity today to recognize leading women in ITU standardization. Our network is growing fast. Its future looks very bright. I thank you all very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ronoe. I'd request you to please take center stage along with Madam Madhu. And we request you now to present the awards. Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin with category 1, where we are going to be calling on the laureates. And as we invite the laureates, I'd like to apprise you, please make an entrance to the stage from your stage left. And once you have collected your certificate, we request you to stay behind that podium because we're going to be once again aligning and taking center stage for a group photograph. So I'm also going to request our presenters to one by one present. So I'm going to start with Mr. Rono and thereafter Ms. Madhu will present the next one. So let us begin by inviting our first laureate, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause. Please help me welcome Dr. Rimbel Hassin Sharif, NOW in ITUT chair. And she's going to be joining us on stage momentarily, ladies and gentlemen. There she is, and we can do another round of applause to congratulate her and thank her for her endeavors. Thank you very much. Thank you. I request you, ma'am, to please stay with us, Dr. Rim. And now I request Ms. Madhu Arora, Member Technology Digital Communication Commission, DOT, to present the next one to Dr. Hyung Joon Kim, NOW in ITUT Vice Chair, to kindly join us on stage. A very warm welcome to you, Dr. Kim. And ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it once again for Dr. Hyung Joon Kim. And we now present the next one, ladies and gentlemen, to Ms. Rebecca Mukite, NOW in ITUT Regional Representative for Africa. Let's welcome Rebecca Mukite, ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause. Thank you for the applause. Welcome, ma'am. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. We request you to stay with us on stage, Ms. Rebecca. May I now invite Ms. Tanya Villa, NOW in ITUT Regional Representative for the Americas. Let's welcome her, ladies and gentlemen. There she is, joining us. Ms. Tanya Villa, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next laureate is Miss Basma Tawfiq, NOW and ITUT Regional Representative for the Arab States. I'm going to invite Miss Samar from Egypt to kindly take this on her behalf. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for Miss Basma Tawfiq. Miss Samar from Egypt takes this honor on behalf of Miss Basma Tawfiq. Thank you very much. And let's hear it once again for Basma Tawfiq. May I now invite Ms. Miho Naganuma, NOW and ITUT Regional Representative for Asia and the Pacific. There she is, approaching the stage very quickly. Ms. Miho Naganuma, NOW and ITUT, the Regional Representative for Asia and the Pacific. A very warm welcome to you. And if we can extend a hand, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. May I now invite Ms. Maria Bolshakova, NOW and ITUT Regional Representative for CIS. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from Ms. Maria Bolshakova. Thank you. And finally, may I invite Ms. Isabella Igleska, NOW and ITUT Regional Representative for Europe. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there she is, Isabella Igleska. Thank you very much, Lawrence. We request you to please stay with us for a little while as we just announced the second category where we have 4 certificates to be presented. 3 member states and 1 region are going to be recognized and awarded for their contributions to gender equality and NOW for WTSA-24 campaign objectives. And this criteria includes women head of delegations with awards considering small, medium, large delegation. I am going to first invite, ladies and gentlemen, representatives from the state of Cameroon. And since Cameroon, is there anyone coming from Cameroon? Yes, we have a representative from Cameroon, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Cameroon, for 58% female participants. And I request you to please stay with us on stage, and thank you and congratulations. May I now invite Dominican Republic. May I invite Ms. Julissa Cruz, Executive Director of Indotel and Chief of Delegation, and Ms. Maria Fernanda Ortega Games, Director of International Organization of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Dominican Republic, to kindly grace the stage to accept this on behalf of Dominican Republic with 45% participation, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations to you both, ladies. And may I now invite a representative from Ghana to kindly join us on stage. Anyone from Ghana gracing this occasion? I guess in that case we will have to. We do have a representative from Ghana. And thank you for the applause, ladies and gentlemen. And we thank Ghana for 40% female participation, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And now we go on to the region with the highest percentage of female participation. Any guesses, ladies and gentlemen? Well, I'll announce it right away. It's Europe at 32%. Mr. Oli Bird, CPT Co-President, European Conference of Postal and Telecommunications Administration. Congratulations and thank you. And he's being joined by Ms. Heidi Himanen. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for Ms. Heidi as well. And with that, I'm going to request your awardees to please stay with us. In fact, come take center stage for the group photograph. I'm also going to invite ITU Secretary General Ms. Doreen Bogdan-Martin, Ms. Deepika Pokarna, DOT organizer, Ms. Charlene Restivo, ITU organizer. These are organizers for NOW and ITUT coordinators. May I request you to please join us on stage for a group photograph with the awardees. And of course, I request Ms. Madhu Arora to please stay with us as well as Mr. Onoe to please stay with us. And may I request the awardees to please step in front for the group photograph. Thank you very much. And right after this, we have that group photograph of all of us, ladies and gentlemen, which is why I would suggest to everybody who's in the side rows to come and take center seats just for that group photograph that we can do, because the photographer is going to come and be on stage and take that picture from stage. And I just suggest to all of you on stage, don't forget to smile. Thank you very much to our dignitaries and our awardees. And I now request you to please step down stage and join in with the audience for a group photograph. We kindly ask everyone in the auditorium, ladies and gentlemen, to prepare for this special moment. We have to all come in the center. In fact, this is going to be a standing photo, so we will all rise in just a bit. And the camera person will, of course, take his place on stage to capture this memorable moment. So let us all stand, and right after this, ladies and gentlemen, we will take a 10-minute tea coffee break, post which we reconvene for that very unmissable panel discussion. Everyone on the side rows are being requested to come in the center. Maybe you can take the aisle in the center as well, because since we have to be standing, the aisle can be utilized. Yes, thank you very much. Let's all come in closer to be in the group photograph. We've got a few more people joining from that side. Just, yeah. Oh, okay. For the panel discussion, we better change that chair. Yes? Oh, he did take his shoes off. All right. Thank you to our amazing photographers. Let's give them a big hand. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks to you for that wonderful. Oh, okay. The camera team, please don't go away. Can we take one seated picture as well as the ask of the organizers? So we'll all just settle in for a bit. Meanwhile, I can tell you about some interesting things happening at the cultural corridor. Ladies and gentlemen, between Hall 1 and 14, there is a mehendi stall. So there are Indian traditional tattoos done with henna as the ingredient. So those are being designed by very skilled henna designers at the cultural corridor. And these henna patterns on your palm actually adorn your palms for about a week or 10 days. So I guess it'd be a good idea if you would like to venture and be a part of the mehendi, the henna design on your palms happening at the cultural corridor, which is between hall number 1 and 14. Yes, everybody? Can we please look at the cameras over there? Okay. Thank you very much once again. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're now breaking for a very short break. Now, this is a 10-minute tea coffee break right outside in the pre-function area. Please enjoy your tea coffee. And we look forward to gathering in this, regathering in this auditorium shortly for an insightful panel discussion on standards for inclusive AI. So in just about 10 minutes, may I request you to please join us back in the room. I thank you for your kind cooperation, ladies and gents. Let us now enjoy that cup of tea or coffee and reinvigorate ourselves. Thank you very much. I'll join you at the other side of this break. Thank you.
टिश्यू पेपर
Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you now to please take your place in the auditorium. We're going to be beginning with the panel discussion. I invite all the participants to kindly join us back in the room and take their seats. This is an announcement for everybody who's still outside in the pre-function area. I request you to please make your way to the auditorium and take your seats, please. I thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an announcement for everybody outside in the pre-function area. May I invite you to please take your seats now in the auditorium. I invite you, ladies and gentlemen, to please be seated. Once again, I invite all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to please make your way to the auditorium as we are now beginning with the panel discussion. We appreciate your cooperation and invite you to please be seated. I thank you very much to those of you who are joining us now. I thank you very much. Please take your seats. Yes, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, may I invite you to please be seated. I thank you very much for cooperating and coming back. Thank you for joining us back in the room, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be starting shortly. And we'd also like to apprise all of you that we've got a beautiful cultural corridor that we've set up in the area between hall number 1 and hall number 14, where we have handicrafts and handlooms from all the states of India. We've exhibited those in stalls, ladies and gentlemen. There's also a henna mehendi stall where skilled henna designers will actually design some intricate tattoos. These are temporary tattoos that last from a week to 10 days on your palms. So we would request you to experience all these things at the cultural corridor, which is placed between hall number 1 and 14. And I now invite all of you to please take seats. I request you all to please be seated. This is an announcement for everybody to please join us in the auditorium and be seated. Once again, I invite all our attendees, the participants, to please join us in the room and be seated. We're going to be starting very shortly, and I thank those who are now joining us. Our 10 minutes break is now over, ladies and gentlemen. May I invite you to please be seated, and then we'll begin with the panel discussion. And this is going to be a very interesting, a very compelling panel discussion. We cannot miss the beginning as well as the end of this panel discussion, which is why I'm going to request you to please make your way to the auditorium and be seated. Once again, I'm going to request you all to please take your seats, ladies and gentlemen, in the ballroom. I thank you very much for your kind cooperation. Please be seated. Thank you for coming back. I invite all of our participants to please come and take their place in the auditorium. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, this is an announcement for everybody who's still outside to kindly make their way in the auditorium and be seated. I thank you for your kind cooperation. Welcome back, ladies and gents. May I invite you to please take seats now? I invite you to please be seated. Thank you very much. I thank all the participants for joining us. May I invite you to quickly settle in. Thank you very much. Once again, the reminder to keep our mobile phones on silent. Thank you very much. Please take seats. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll shortly begin with this panel discussion, and our esteemed experts are going to delve into the challenges surrounding gender equality in AI, and they're going to highlight the incentives as well as opportunities for creating technical standards that support inclusive AI. So I invite all the attendees to please join us very quickly and settle in as we get ready to explore how these standards can help address gender bias and contribute to building an equitable future. May I invite you all to please take seats. Thank you very much. Once again, I invite you all to please take your seats. I thank you very much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are here with me, I'd also like to apprise you about a very special interactive tool that we're going to employ in this particular panel discussion, and that is called the Mentimeter. And for that Mentimeter, all we need is our mobile phones. So we do need them on silent mode, but we don't need our mobile phones off because we're going to utilize our mobile phones during the Mentimeter exercise. The moderator will, of course, enlighten you a little about that as well, but let me just take you through how that works. As soon as the moderator announces for the Mentimeter exercise, there's going to be a QR code which will reflect on the screen, and you have to take out your mobile phone and scan that QR code. And then you'll be able to engage with the moderator because the moderator will have a couple of questions for all of you, and you will use that application on your mobile phones to answer those questions, right? So this is basically to engage with all of you directly. For all those of you who've probably not heard me, there's going to be a Mentimeter exercise which will take place during the course of this panel discussion, where the moderator will ask you to scan a code, the QR code, which will be displayed on the screen. And once you display that code, you will be then aligned and be able to answer the questions posed by the moderator to you. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you have understood the Mentimeter exercise. However, it's going to be a moderator who's also going to be taking you through briefly how this works. It's not very difficult. All you need for the Mentimeter exercise is your mobile phones, and you've got to scan the QR code which will be displayed on the screen. For that, once you scan the QR code, you're going to be able to answer questions that are posed by the moderator to you. So I invite you all to please take seats now. Thank you very much once again. And I guess we'll just wait for 1 more minute and then begin. So inviting all the participants to kindly join us in the room quickly and take their seats. I thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, the gates are being closed, so let me take you through once again the theme of this panel discussion. We're going to be graced by our esteemed experts on stage who are going to delve into the challenges surrounding gender equality in AI, and they will highlight the incentives and opportunities for creating technical standards that support inclusive AI. So this is an unmissable session indeed. I did take those of you who were here before about the Mentimeter exercise. Let me once again take you through that exercise. During the course of this panel discussion, we will indulge in Mentimeter activity where you will have to use your mobile phones and scan a QR code which will be displayed on the screen. Once you scan that QR code, you will then be aligned through an app where you will be able to answer the questions that are going to be posed by our moderator. Okay, I hope everyone's clear about the Mentimeter exercise. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take the privilege of inviting to the stage our moderator as well as our panelists. So please help me welcome to the stage Ms. Susan Ferguson, UN Women India representative. Let's welcome her, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to you, madam. Ladies and gentlemen, there she is, Ms. Susan Ferguson, UN Women India representative. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. I'd like to now invite, ladies and gentlemen, our esteemed panelist, Professor Sandra Maximiano, Chair of the Board, National Communications Regulator, Portugal's National Regulatory Authority for the Communications Sector. Let's welcome her, ladies and gentlemen. Professor Sandra Maximiano. She's also the Associate Professor at ISEG, Lisbon School of Economics and Management, and Coordinator of X-Lab Behavioral Research Lab in Portugal. Warm welcome. May I invite our panelist, Mr. Vishnu Ram, AI expert, Vice Chair of ITU Focus Group on Autonomous Networks, independent consultant, Mr. Vishnu Ram, ladies and gentlemen. Let's welcome him. A very warm welcome to you, sir. May I invite Dr. Alessandra Sala, Senior Director of Artificial Intelligence and Data Science, Shutterstock, Global President of Women in AI. There she is. Let's welcome her, everybody. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am, Dr. Alessandra Sala. May I invite Dr. Ebtesam Almazrui, founder and CEO of AIE3, expert AI executive and tech visionary leader. Let's welcome her, ladies and gentlemen. There she is, Dr. Almazrui. May I invite Ms. Pico Velazquez, founder and CEO at VIIRA, computational architect and multiverse thought leader. Let's welcome Ms. Pico Velazquez. And there she is, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to you, Ms. Velazquez. And now I'm going to request our moderator, Ms. Susan Ferguson, to kindly take over the proceedings.
Good morning, everyone. So it's my pleasure to moderate the session today, and I'm really thrilled to be joined by this incredible panel of people who know about AI, and I'm looking forward to learning from you all. So today's panel is about looking at this issue of AI and standardization and learning from what you have all done. And we're really here, we're part of looking at how do we close those gender gaps that exist in the world of AI. And we really find ourselves at a critical juncture, I think, in technological advancement, because AI is here, it's having a huge impact already. And I think, I mean, I heard someone on a podcast recently saying that we only know less than 1% of what could happen with AI, and I don't even know how that person knows that. It's really important for us to make sure that women are at the centre of development of this new technology, both their leadership, but also the benefits to women and the ability for women to shape the AI environment. If women aren't now part of the shaping of the AI system, we will just really multiply inequalities around the world significantly. And so I know that our panel today will be grappling with this question. So approximately 44% of AI systems demonstrate gender bias, with 25% exhibiting both gender and racial bias. And, you know, we know that if women can be equal benefits and participants in the AI world, it stands to, just in the banking sector alone, it stands to create something like nearly 400 million accounts, for example, in banks of people who are unbanked at the moment. So this is a massive advantage as we're trying to make sure that women are also at the centre of economic development as well. So that's just one small benefit that would be achieved if we make sure that women can benefit from the AI system. So I'm going to, with that very short opening remarks, because I think we're a little behind time, I'm going to go to our Mentimeter process, which was explained just before. But before I do that, just to make sure everyone knows our panellists. So we have Professor Sandra, Chair of Portugal's National Communications Regulatory Environment, Mr. Vishnu Ram, AI expert and Vice Chair of the ITU Focus Group on Autonomous Networks, Dr. Alessandra Sala, Director of AI and Data Science at Shutterstock and Global President of Women in AI, Dr. Ebtesam Almazrouei, founder and CEO of AI3 and expert AI executive and tech visionary leader, and Ms. Pico Velasquez, founder and CEO of Vira, a computational architect and multiverse thought leader. Actually, the only multiverse I've heard of is from Spider-Man. That's not really true, but that's where it's become, you know, such it's in our colloquial thought. So, have we got our Mentimeter system up? We're going to ask you to scan the QR code, and we'd like you to answer the first question in the QR if you open up Mentimeter. And that is, how would you rate the current state of gender inclusivity within AI? And as you answer this question, the results will start to appear on the board. And I'm just going to get up so I can have a look at what's appearing. Okay. How many of you have used Mentimeter before? Do you want to just raise your hand? Yeah, it's quite a good little tool. So I think we can see the results are overwhelmingly poor. We rate gender equality in the AI system pretty poor. Does that surprise any of us? Probably not. No. So maybe we'll go to the next question, which is, what do you see as the main barrier to achieving gender inclusivity within AI? Okay. So we have a nearly a tie between limited awareness and education and gender stereotypes and biases. One of those biases I've experienced myself in my family, where my oldest daughter is doing aviation studies in Australia. She was one of 4 girls out of a class of 60, so all the rest were boys. And when she started to learn how to fly a plane, she actually gave up and moved into management side of things because all the others were boys and they'd all been on their computers since they were little boys doing simulator things online. My daughter didn't even know such programs existed because she didn't have the networks around saying, oh, get on to this, try this. And it's just such a good example of some of the really basic gaps between boys and girls, I think, and some of these gender stereotypes. Okay, so I know that today we'll be unpacking some of these 4 areas and more. So thank you very much for that, everyone. So we're going to start with Ebtisam. You know, as one of our AI global leaders and tech visionaries, could you define what inclusive AI means to you?
Thank you, Suzanne. Good morning, everyone, esteemed guests, Your Excellencies. Thank you for taking part of this important and critical discussion today and joining the International AI Standards Summit along with WTSA. Inclusivity or inclusive AI, from my own perspectives, ensure that AI systems are designed, developed, deployed to serve every segment of the society without bias, without discrimination or harm. Embedding inclusivity into the core of the standardization is crucial. Why? Why we need standardization and ensuring inclusivity is a core fundamental standard or integral part in AI standards. Because it can mitigate the risks. It can mitigate the bias that we are facing today. It will allow that we will have inclusive AI solutions that can serve both genders. Today, when we speak about inclusive AI, we are not speaking about women representation in the workforce. We are also speaking about AI technological solutions that has been developed to serve both gender, especially in the healthcare. And there are many ways and many steps that we can take to ensure that we should mitigate that bias and ensure the inclusive AI. One of the core fundamental thing is data, diverse data, because the data is the fundamental of the AI developments. Ensuring that we have diverse AI data sets, it can allow us to have inclusive AI solutions that we will have as a result. Second thing also, cross-collaboration. As we hear today here in this week in New Delhi, regulators, private sectors, And also innovators, they can work together to ensure that we embed inclusive AI standards in the global AI standards itself. And of course, the third and the critical important one, inclusive AI governance and regulation. Respect all cultures. Make sure that the red AI lines is embedded as a core in the core developments to allow for inclusive AI systems, and also to ensure that a human value alignment and AI value alignment also has this inclusive AI standards within its systems.
Thank you very much. And just turning to you, Sandra, as the Portugal's regulator, could you share some examples of current gender biases and the impact those have on both men and women?
Hello? This is working. Thanks a lot for the invitation. It's really a great pleasure to be here and talking about such an important issue like the gender bias and how can we actually fight this gender bias. So gender bias is a widespread issue that affects societies around the world. And there are different types of bias. And I would like to talk a little bit about this because sometimes we forget, and then different policies are needed for these different types. And first, we have prejudice or taste-based discrimination, which occurs when someone has a dislike for a specific group, such as women. And this sort of bias, how can we fight this sort of bias? In many countries, we make this illegal. There is no other way. So we shouldn't even talk about some programs, some policies, some public awareness. This should be illegal. Second, we have what is called statistical bias discrimination, which this is not irrational. All of us have. So think about using average information. For example, if we do have data showing that women take more sick days than men, in a hiring process, it is natural that there might be a preference for men. If there is data showing that women are more risk-averse or shy away from competition, then there is this tendency to promote less women to a leadership position. Okay? So whenever there is uncertainty about a specific candidate, for instance, we tend to have this natural approach of going for averages. Okay? So what can we do in this regard? Gather more information. We are in a world that produces a lot of information, so we should gather as much information as possible about a specific candidate and not going for this average. Otherwise, we are just going to feed this statistical discrimination. And the third one, and it was mentioned there, is stereotyping, which occurs when someone views certain groups as less suitable than others for a particular positions, for instance. And this is different than prejudice. So in that, stereotyping is not based on taste, but is based on erroneous information and beliefs and assessments. And this leads us to error discrimination. So for example, the stereotype that women prioritize family and men prioritize their career. Women are assumed to excel in roles related to empathy and communication, while men excel in technical or analytical tasks, regardless of actual capabilities. Just to give you some information, Gender Social Norms Index measures bias against women by assessing public attitudes to harder roles in 4 essential areas: political, educational, economic, and physical integrity. The index covers 85% of the population and shows that 90% of both men and women exhibit biases against women. Even in the countries with the least gender bias, more than 1/4 of people have at least one of these bias. Almost half of the world thinks that men make better political leaders. 43% think that men make better business executives. 28% think that university is more important for men than women. And more than 1/4 of the people think that it's justifiable for a man to beat his wife. So these biases have a big impact on both men and women because they foster discriminatory behavior. In the workplace, for instance, women tend to get paid less for the same jobs and promoted less for top positions, as we know. And studies have shown that women receive less favorable performance evaluations than men. Feedback for women focus more on personality traits rather than achievements, while men's evaluations highlight their successes. I have some also research showing that discrimination against women promotes men over confidence traits. And that leads to inefficient decisions taken by men as well. So this has an impact on men's choices. And if they take these inefficient decisions, it gets, of course, to less productive choices in the end. So, for instance, extremely risky decisions may be taken by those that are not suitable for taking those decisions because they don't actually match the level of their own ability. But because of this discrimination cycle, they get this overconfidence, and women get less confidence.
Sandra,
And
thank
we
you.
get good people shying away from the right positions, and this is one of the biggest problems of biases.
Yes, thank you so much and for also highlighting that so much of it is unconscious bias. We absorb these things from the culture around us. And I think that must be a real challenge for you, Alessandra, in some of the research that you've done as well. And so perhaps you could explain your ideas of how you think international standards can be leveraged to mitigate some of these gender biases that we've already identified. And, if there's any specific initiatives that you'd like to highlight, that would be great too.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me here. What a wonderful morning, so rich of insight and inspiration for all of us. Going back to this specific question, I'd like to highlight the work that I'm doing with UNESCO, and in particular with the ADG Gabriela Ramos, with the Women for Ethical AI. It's an initiative that is trying to unpack how we can implement the recommendation on the ethics of AI, specifically focus on the gender aspect. We know that in AI we have two big problems: the bias, stereotype, and discrimination that you all have already identified, and the lack of participation of women. And those two things are correlated with each other. So how can standard activities help us to, first of all, shed the light on where the problem is and therefore start to address the problem? So we are proposing that AI model have to be audited based on a series of statistical measures that measure how much bias there is in the data, how much discriminatory behavior those models have against women, against minorities. And therefore, once we have those clear indicators, it's easier for everyone to acknowledge and to take action. Today, big tech is saying, oh, but our society is biased. Data are biased. And I'm saying, what are you doing to debias? I've wrote a couple of patents at Shutterstock to explain how you can debias the training process, even when the data are not perfectly balanced, because yes, we don't have enough example of women in those data sets, but yet we don't need to stop there and say, oh, I don't have enough example and therefore I do nothing. No, there are things that we can do. And therefore, coming together, having a voice, raising those issues, bringing down metrics, and having standard works to back up and say, yes, those are the standard, those are those metrics that we should implement and use to understand how much those models discriminate.
Thank you. So I think this theme of data is really emerging from everyone who's spoken so far, and the importance of getting diverse data and then making sure that it's representative data as well of difference. Vishnu, your turn. So as an AI expert with extensive experience in the telecom industry, could you share examples where non-inclusive AI practices have resulted in significant gender bias?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Susan. Well, first of all, I am not important. I represent a bunch of girls and women who are actively working behind the scenes for AI models, data sets, use cases, requirements in 5G, 6G, and a bunch of technologies for AI for good in international and national standards. That's what I represent. To answer this question, I would like to take a case study. So we had in May, around March to May of this year, we launched AI for Good launched program to call for use cases, analysis, data, which uses AI for sustainable development goals. Sustainable development goals, as you know, UN sustainable development goals are very popular anyways. So we got around 100 plus countries responding to us with, girls and boys responding to us. And we had a very unenviable task of choosing candidates who can be sponsored to come and present this analysis of data, AI, using SDGs in Geneva. So we had one, in particular, I would like to answer this question using one particular case, and I have her permission to speak. So I spoke to her yesterday. This is a student, a girl student from US, and she was fresh in college, very enthusiastic, and she was up and about, analyzing the data. I sat with her, and we gave her the problem statement, data, analysis, AI, how to do. I was a little skeptic, to be frank, because, she was just starting, and I was a little skeptic about how she would do. But I was her mentor, and it was my job. So we sat together, went through the data. I explained to her the models, the tool sets, everything. And at the end, it turned out, the important thing, the practices that we followed in terms of checklist, mentoring, not only me, but an array of mentors from India as well as abroad, brought into play to address such upcoming girls as well as boys, of course, but ladies who are working in AI, analyzing, coming first time to analyze the tool sets. I think it was Madame Rim who mentioned the importance of mentoring. I think this is very important to address this. Data sets, yes, they have to be unbiased, but tool sets, I think Susan mentioned the importance of networking and to be in the know, as she called it, to be aware of the tool sets which the teams across the world are using. In this particular case, it was very important for the student to understand what are the tool sets to be used and what are the notebooks to be used, which sample code is available where, which applies to which scenario, which use case is important, and which scenario are to be discarded, actually. So data sets, coding, tool sets, and publications. So this is another important thing, because when you come to the first upcoming student, whether it be developed or developing nations like India or developed nations like US, what I understood is that it's very important to push the ladies towards publications. It's very important to also push the button, as the Secretary General mentioned in the morning. I'm just the button. So we need to push the candidates, the participants to publish their voice, raise their voice as well. So in general, to answer the question, I would say yes, data sets, coding, tool sets, publications. These are very important aspects in analysis to impress upon the ladies who are coming into this. Thank you.
Thank you for expanding that idea of it's more than data. So thank you. And actually thinking more of the tools, turning to you, Pico, from a design and urban planning perspective, how can AI-driven tools, such as digital twins, help create more gender-inclusive environments in cities and public spaces?
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be joining this incredible panel. So just to explain a bit about my background in the multiverse, let's say. I'm an architect, computational architect. I did a master's at Harvard University. I've been working a lot designing buildings like the Google headquarters and involved in a lot of urban development as an advisory, but also as a director for certain smart cities. Some of them include Saudi cities, which have been one of the most unprecedented smart cities that the world has. And one of the key technologies that we use for this is digital twins, which is the virtual representation of how a city is going to be implemented. A lot of this is being used for understanding behavioral patterns. They're so for predictive analysis and therefore to create better cities in the future, right? So when we do these digital twins, there is a great component in the urban design and the infrastructural design, et cetera, that implement the data that is being used to be able to design these accordingly. Most of the data that we have is coming from a combination of digital data sources, which are coming from IoT and sensors of other cities that we use as examples, but also things that are more regional or locally sourced that come from surveys, communities, et cetera. The interlacing of these two is eventually what gives us the information to understand how to design a better city. But as you can imagine, with a lot of this data being biased in so many ways, cities tend to be designed majorly for men. And this can include types of facilities like healthcare, public facilities that have to do with caregiving. It also has to do with creating safe spaces that can prevent us, or especially women, from having, or minorities from having occasions of harassment, right? And mobility as well is a very important one that has to do with what are the ways of transportation in which women and men behave differently, and how can we design cities for this? So one of the main things that I would like for us to consider is that both our digital and physical spaces are being designed together, right? And the information of one informs the other. So it's very important to consistently consider what I'd like to call the hybrid space. I call it the multiverse, but I think a hybrid space is more according to, to the type of language that we should be using. But essentially is that these two, eloquently have to work together. And the way that we use data for one is gonna eventually inform how we design our, our public and personal spaces in the physical world, which is equally as important as the digital world at this day and age. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for raising this issue of violence against women also, and because we know that tech-facilitated violence is greatly increased through AI, but also we can find solutions through AI. So it's really good to hear how you're doing that in using this kind of hybrid data and tool set. So Sandra, turning back to you, and I've just said that AI is transformative, and do you feel confident that this new area can bridge this gender divide in the digital world and others? And you were really talking about some of this in your original comments about the norms and that kind of thing. So I'd love to hear more about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, yes, I am confident. I think we should all be, because if we think we are human beings, so we have to think first where those biases come from. So it comes from us. Okay, so as human beings, we are full of cognitive bias, behavioral bias, and of course, the data that is out there is data that comes with all those bias embedded. So we can use AI actually to make us to take better decisions. So the bias those decision-making process is very important. So I think that should be the main focus. We should work too hard debiasing this data, which means basically, and when we think about that, when we actually put our efforts towards that and not basically make decisions by impulse, we have time to somehow to go through that and debias. Because on a daily basis, all of us make very biased decisions. And I think AI can help us on that. And there is also other important I think characteristics of AI. AI facilitates the access to education and training resources, which is very important for women and girls, particularly in underserved regions, enable remote work, which is particularly beneficial for those that face barriers to traditional employment, personalized content. So we can make use of this ability of having personalized content and enhance engagement, encourage more women through STEM educations, for instance. So AI-driven language translation tools is extremely important and can help women in English-speaking countries to access information and also to create more data and feed this system with more data. Creation of online networks. So we all talk about collaborative work. So AI facilitate as well this creation and mentorship programs. Analyze data on gender disparity. So we can use AI tools to make better analysis of this data and act upon the results. So and we have more informed policies and initiatives. So I think it's a tool that is here for help us. I think these are all very important points. And let me also tell for the telecom AI, we know that has lots of potentialities, to make networks more resilient, more efficient, optimize bandwidth capabilities and spectrum management, and of course create equipment that are more suitable for disabled people, so in promoting inclusivity. So all these things are contributing for the SDGs. And I think this actually is going to bring more women to STEM education, because all this connection between AI, telecom development and efficiency creation and enabling all better, more efficient telecoms also it's going to make us to foster and promote SGDs. And I think this is really going to attract more women towards this to tech sector. Let me give you another example. For instance, in the construction sector, and nowadays are many firms moving to a more modular construction. And so construction in a factory instead of in a field. And these are bringing more females to the construction sector, because it's a bit more secure, more tech-oriented, more innovative, and this is very attractive for females. So all the transformation that AI is bringing to the telecom sector is going to help to bring us more females to the sector. So I'm very optimistic about it.
Fantastic, thank you. And actually, Vishnu, the next question for you is really to sort of unpack some of that a little more, which is about this cross-sector collaboration and governments, NGOs, academics, the private sector. We all need to work together really to bring about some of those changes that we've just heard about. Can you tell us more about how this cross-sector collaboration really can have an impact?
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I think that's a tough tough one. So let me tell you a story. Before you were all here, I was here. 6th to 7th, this month, we had a hackathon here. I mean, in the Bharat Mandapam. This was one of the first events that we had for WTSA. It was called ITU WTSA Hackathon. It was a huge challenge, first of all, because we did not have this kind of support, we did not have this kind of infrastructure. But we had to pull together teams from around the world. We had an online phase 1, which ran to 2 months, and then we had a physical event here in Bharat Mandapam. Our challenge was to exactly do what you asked, Susan. We have to string together, hold our hands from governments, private sector, public sector, everything to line up the ducks to get the teams and the problem statements to solutions. We had 40-hour hackathon. But to answer the question, our government, in this particular case, I'm very happy to tell you, Department of Telecom really pulled all the plugs. I mean, they were working 24 hours to get the visas done, travel done, and the teams were given visas within 24 hours. This is never heard of. Indian visas, 24 hours, yeah. So we got that done. And then we had an Indian startup to give cloud credits for them to analyze the data and create the notebooks, show the demonstration for us. This is excellent example where we had collaboration between them. At the same time, we were behind them. There were a panel of experts who were giving them motivational talks as well as technical talks. We were all behind them to support each other. You heard Her Excellency Minister, she's here, Dr. Aminata. She talked about rainy days, remember? So the support which has to be given to the participants when they are feeling down, when they are not feeling like doing the job, you know, the coding as well as creating the solutions for the demonstrations. This is very important as well. We had a panel of international experts to give the talks. I think I would like to give you an example of a girl student, and I have her permission. She is from Nigeria, Federal University of Technology, Benin. She was here, and she told me that without this kind of collaboration across the layers of the whole infrastructure, including government, public sector, private sector, that we pulled out, including startups, academia, who were behind this to support us, this would not have been possible for her to be here. This is very important for us to push our initiatives. I cannot stress how important it is for her to be here, because we have been trying to motivate a professor to engage with our initiatives. So it was really important that she is here doing the coding for us. So that's the example of a good collaboration. It is possible. It's really important that this happens as well. I would like to thank whoever was behind this, and it's a really important point as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And so I think that you've also emphasized the importance of the humans in it all, and that it is a hybrid space, really, to kind of bridge some of these divides. We need to be actively engaged. And Alessandra, just building on some of your previous comments, and perhaps thinking of some of the other interventions, you know, could you tell us a little more about, you know, this issue of data and the critical role it plays, and what standards and practices, could you elaborate a little more on some of the standards and practices that may ensure unbiased data or less biased data?
Yes, it's a deep question. And one thing that we need to recognize, no PhD student is actually trained, I wasn't either, to really investigate and understand some of those human right and social implication. Just to give you a very concrete example, at Shutterstock, we have built this generative model that creates amazing images. And we have a library of images of 400 million images. If you spend 1 second on every single image, it will take 11 years of your life to see what we have. There is no PhD student that can take 11 years only to look at the data. Forget about doing the PhD. So we need to enable student, practitioner, researcher to really see what's in the data. So it starts from us to demand. When my guys build those models, I say, I want to see what you have in the data. Bring me an audit. And they say, Ale, don't worry, it's gender balanced. And I go, give me the data. I want to see. You did an amazing job to gender balance the data set. And if you look at the top line, it's 50-50. But then I break it down and I go by age, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 50 to 60. 20 to 30, it's all beautiful women, very young, almost naked. And in the 50 to 60 category, it's all men on a suit, on a power pose, on a stage, CEO, doctor, lawyers. And I was, what did you mean for gender bias? In which of those categories? Because it's none of them. It's full of stereotypes. So going down and really understanding the data into this intersectional variable that represent the diversity of our societies, the diversity of colors that we have here. So training, education, standard can help us to define those key metrics. Don't stop at the top line, 50-50. Really look down into the data and understand which are the professions represented. Women is usually in care jobs, men is in the doctor category, lawyers, CEOs. So any class that you investigate in those data represent all the biases that we know are present in our society, and there is where we should act.
Thank you very much. And yes, it's not just about taking it at face value, is it? And that's so true of gender equality generally, that it's the story behind the data often that is the most interesting and informative and important. So Pico, in city planning and the future of city planning, you know, and architecture also relies heavily on data. You know, can you tell us how you would develop technical standards that address the gender issues, especially representation? You know, it's really, I think, taking a little bit of about what Alessandra just said into your sector. How do you deal with these issues?
Yes, so the first part is the data itself, right? The data sets itself. And being able to have what we would call diverse and representative inclusive data sets. When it comes to this, one of the main things is being able to separate the data sets into gender, right? A lot of the data that we have in cities doesn't come with gender, doesn't come with much more of an identity that then needs to be matched. So it's important to be able to say, this is, you know, female, male, other genders considered as well, but also in context. What is that gender in terms of race, in terms of income, in terms of disabilities? There's all these other forms of context that can be matched to that data that will help us have more informed points for the spaces that we're designing. Some of the spaces, I mean, can be as large as designing infrastructure, like I said, like trains or a subway, but others can be much more specific, like educational centers or medical centers, etc. So those are regional or like more extended ways in which that data plays a role. One of the things that I think is important that Alessandra also touched upon was being able to balance those data sets, which means that even if the information, even if the data is not coming in equally as much, like we know that in average, like maybe there's 50% women and men in the world. Let's say in average, maybe those numbers shift here and there, but the amount of data that we have for each of them is completely unbalanced. So one of the things that we need to do is what we call unitizing the data, which is being able to see it that regardless of how many points, it's not 1 point per point, but is 1 point representative of whatever segment of that data it's going to be it's going to be informing, basically. And another point of that is being able to have what we call algorithmic fairness and bias detection, which is that we know that bias exists, but the most important part is being able to detect it ahead of time and having some form of human intervention. So these audits are not necessarily always done by the AI itself, but there's also a human that can still quantify, if this is going in the direction that we want it or not, because it's not designing the future cities based on the information we have right now, but designing it in terms of what we want the future to be, right? So it's like, how do we, in some way, maybe it is our own personal bias, but is the bias for the betterment of humanity as a whole, having everyone in the same, at the same level. And lastly, transparency and accountability, which comes with monitoring as well, but it's taking into account that a lot of this information cannot be held by single companies alone, especially when you're working with something as big as a city. It's important for these to be transparent, whether it's on the blockchain or being able to have, open source of information, so that it's not just coming from companies or governments that might have different inclinations, but that in whole, it can be a participant by the community entirely.
Thank you. And Ebtisam, you started us off, and now we're sort of winding up with you to some extent, really going back to the issue of representation and women's leadership in the sector. So looking at the human part of the AI world. You're a CEO, and so what are some practical steps or strategies have you taken, or that you think we all should take, to really promote inclusivity in AI teams? And this is something that the previous panel also talked quite a bit about. So I'd love to hear your perspective on it.
Thank you, Susan, for the question. If you would like to allow me, I would like to ask the audience today. How many of you involved in developing AI technology, or they are using currently an AI tool? Women only. I want to see only the women. Okay, so we, as I can see here, there are few hands. It's not even 50% from the people who are presenting today that has experienced or developed or designed an AI tool. I have another question, if you allow, as well. Do you think that after 10 years, you will be working with an AI tool with you, an AI robot or an AI system? If yes, please raise your hand. Women and men this time, it's fine. Okay, thank you so much. It's maybe 50 to 55%. They said yes, that after 10 years from now, we will be using AI tools in our daily lives. Okay, let me tell you what. Maybe we don't recognize yet the power of the AI tool, but as a person who developed this technology, I developed one of the largest LLM models in the world that has been released and open source last year. And it was decided to be an open source because we would like to share this technology for inclusive AI deployment in different industrial applications. Last week, maybe some of you witnessed Elon Musk announcements. There are great announcements. Robot Optimism, and there are many vans working, autonomous vehicles, no need for a human intervention. We are living now in the era of the AI intersection with a human being. We need women inclusivity, women to be represented not only in the data, but also in the AI process designing. You asked me, Susan, one of the important questions, how I ensure this within my team. When I started developing one of the largest LLM model last year, I have 0 woman representation in developing this technology. And I have one lady, she holds a PhD in physics. She is really smart. She was working on a different team under my department in computer vision. And I started to brief her about generative AI models and what is the impact of it and what is her role to lead that development. And we have to nurture the confidence in our employees. I am here for you, with you, during the development, during all the process of the training. It's a new era. All of us, we have to step in, start to have inclusive, diverse teams in the developments, in the deployments. This is the first, let's say, key strategy you should have. The second one is to have inclusive, let's say, AI benchmark during the data processing, during the iterative retraining processing, during also the inference model. What are these statistical measures? Who is contributing to put or to shape these statistical measures? And of course, the third one is network and mentorship. It's important to be close with especially with the young women, empower them, but let them feel that they are confident in building this technology and they have value in taking a role in developing and deploying these technologies. And of course, the fourth important item is auditing and retraining. It's not only one-time process, as we have many AI models around different industries, from healthcare, education, and they are open source. Every day we have open source new technology. How to ensure that they are embedding the AI value alignment, how to make sure that they have inclusive AI standards and gender equality in their data sets. By doing the iterative retraining process, the iterative auditing, we can ensure or at least mitigate the mitigate the risk of bias and discrimination. These are the 4 important things that you can take. And you should start by yourself. It is difficult at the beginning because AI is a new technology, it's a new domain, it's based on physics, math, but at least you should empower your colleague, your sister, your family to step in the STEM education to understand how to utilize this tool. And we are here with you, for you, because at the end we are building these technologies to advance the human well-being and to be all together and solving the global challenges. And this should be our aim and goal at the end.
Thank you. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Organisers, we are really over time. We have one more question for everyone, but I just want to know before we continue how much time we have left. Maybe we'll just keep going. So just finishing off the panel, I'm just going to start with you, Sandra. So maybe you can all just spend just 1 minute each saying what is your vision, much like what you have just articulated actually. What is your vision for women in the AI industry, and especially young women?
So I think I don't want to talk about this industry without talking about us as human beings. And we have one main role, not just de-bias the data that we are using, but we need to take, as I said, be more conscious about the biased decisions that we make. So we should always be aware of that. And I think women are, because of course they suffer from this bias more directly, they are more aware from that. So we should always advocate for fighting bias in the real world, and that will lead us naturally to a de-biased data. So we should, meanwhile, of course, we should de-bias the data because the biases are there. But my hope is over time, we are getting a more inclusive and more real gender balanced AI systems. But I think another point that I think it's very important, it's actually that there is a role here there is an opportunity for young female entrepreneurs that they can start their own tech ventures and lead the creation of products and services that address the unique challenges faced by women and marginalized communities. So I think we have an opportunity here, and using this tool for that, and of course engage their communities to raise awareness and importance of diversity AI. I think I would say that, and one last one, advocate for inclusive language in AI. I think is extremely important to fight for that. Thanks.
Thank you, Sandra. Vishnu.
Yeah, again, I would like to take two examples. The first one is a lady, a great friend of mine. She comes from one of the most conflict-ridden places on earth right now. And I had the honor and pleasure of working with her for analyzing AI data sets and creating solutions and a report for AI for Good impact. I had the pleasure of shaking her hand in Shanghai. So we had the event there. I mean, we invited her there, and she came down. My takeaway from that is that it is possible to create open platforms where we could host such women and boys, of course, but at the same time support them to come and show their solutions, lean in, as Secretary General called in the morning. And my second example, very quickly, is again my great friend and colleague, who is currently chair of one of our focus groups. ITU focus groups are open platforms again, which allows you to contribute use cases, architecture, code. It's an AI native networks, as we call it, a focus group. And I have the lady who is currently chairing the group is a great friend of mine as well, Ms. Boozer from Turkcell. I have her permission to take her name. These platforms gives us the ability to mentor, bring these young women to the forefront and support them in this end-to-end technologies, including deployment. I think Shobna mentioned about certain roles like sales, for example. I would say a deployment is another one, which is very similar. And these roles are important to provide this platform for women. Thank you.
Thank you. Alessandra.
Thank you. I'll jump right into the standard. I think there is a huge opportunity to bring the gender lens into the standard groups, into the standard discussion, pushing for technology that respect human rights, that place human at the center, that place our planet as a priority, and only through those standard activities we can allow the world to walk in a direction and in a planet that we all want to live in. And then a call to all the women. We are used to do it. We are used to rely on our own capability and our strength. Today there is technology that is open source that we can use to solve some of our problem, because when you realize that you have a problem, there are many other people that are experiencing the same problem. And if you solve for yourself, you have created an opportunity not only for you, but for many more to solve the same problem and possibly become an entrepreneur. So leaning in the open source community never before has been so rich. Those models are so capable that can really help us to get close to the solution so much faster.
Thank you. Eptison.
I will say two important things. I cannot agree more with what Alessandra she mentioned. The standards is a key integral parts that it will allow us to have inclusive AI, gender equality in the AI developments and deployments in all sectors, especially in healthcare and education. The second important point is mentorship and education. As I mentioned earlier, we should start by ourselves. Everyone has a key role to play today. Being part of mentorship program, empower yourself, to know about AI, educate others, elevate the skills for your team. Be a person who can shape the world to the betterment for humanity. This is what I would like to say. Thank you.
And Pico.
Yes, and I would just like to finalize with encouraging everyone to get into AI because it doesn't have to be from a mathematical PhD level. It can be basically at any level, from like designing the actual algorithms to doing agents with LLMs that already exist to eventually, being able to use them as an application that's already ready-made, whether that's from education or health, architecture as well, like a field that you wouldn't consider that necessarily uses AI is still something that uses it. Marketing, business development, etc. Right? It's thinking that AI is not a field, but a tool that is going to be underlying every field. And every time more, we need people that have this interdisciplinary mind thinking, where you can connect basically anything that we need to solve in the world with new technologies to solve it. So I would encourage everyone to look into it, or at every degree that they can. Yeah.
Thank you. Charlene, do we have time for questions? We do. 10 minutes, okay. So, are there any questions from the audience? Yes. Yes, there's a microphone coming down for you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm Pamela Kumar. I'm associated with various projects, including standards. I've been participating more on the telecom side. But this is interesting. AI is not really my field. I'm becoming aware of it, but at a very superficial level. So what intrigued me is this concept of debiasing, right? So you have, the world has its biases, the world has its prejudices, okay? And stereotypes. And the data that you collect and you build any algorithm or train any AI model on, the data has to be prejudiced and biased and stereotyped. What do you mean by debias? How do you debias it? Don't you create another bias to debias it? So
what a great question. Alessandra, would you like to have a go at that one?
I love the question because it's fundamentally very true, in the sense that the data that represent our society are biased. But let me give you some very concrete data. One of those large language models that generate the images, when you ask to generate judges, it represents 3% of women judges. We know that in the US only we have 34% female judges. What happened? Those models are bringing us back. They have forgotten the progress that we have made. It all happened because of a statistical process, that those classes that have less data are less represented, and the result at the other side, it tend to forget those small classes. So not only we are representing a society that is already biased, we are doing even worse. So how do we approach that? We balance those data sets. And does it mean to bring other biases when we try to adjust things? We need to be very careful. That's very true. But giving more opportunity to women to be seen, it's not really discriminatory against men. I'm still preserving that at least 50% of the chance a man will be represented. I'm just trying to amplify the times that a woman could be found or could be seen. So it's a complex process. It starts with the data, trying to balance as much as possible, trying not to introduce other issues. And then in the training process, trying to amplify and give more strength to those small classes so that they don't shrink even more in the training process, but they remain at least as representative as we would expect.
We might take another question and then other panelists can respond. Yes, your turn.
Thank you so much for giving us such a diverse, interesting, and knowledgeable views on AI from the extreme panelists. I am representing Department of Telecom. My question is very basic question. I heard all of you about the effects of gender bias in AI, but the basic question, what causes, also through this quiz you have tried to answer, still it is not very thorough that what causes gender biases and what are the consequences. I would like to ask the developers first.
Maybe we'll take a couple more questions and then deal with them all at once. Any other questions? Do you want to ask a question? No.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, but we can't see you. Oh.
Okay. So thank you very much for that very interesting panel discussion. I mean, I heard like two panelists mention two things that are of very great that are of very great interest to me. So two panelists mentioned encouraging more women or more girls to come into STEM education. I was having some interesting conversations yesterday with some very brilliant set of women. And then I learned that about one of the courses in one of the universities, they had about 90% women, a STEM course actually, 90% students, 90% of girls that were students of that course. Now what happened? After they graduated, I think she said about only 20% were actually practicing. So my question is this: what do you think we can do to bridge that gap? Now we have done a lot of background work, supported them to go to the university, studied these STEM courses, but they are not practicing it. What can we do to bridge this particular gap? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any one final question? Yes.
Given the increasing reliance on AI models for all decision makings, how can we ensure these AI models are very transparent, understandable when the models are like relying on deep learning and all the complex models? I want to understand what steps can be taken to make them more transparent and understandable. Thank you.
Okay, so Sandra, I'm wondering whether you might be interested in having a go at the first one, which is a very difficult question.
Yeah. So I will actually wanted to address, I know that was not addressed to me in particular, but like what causes the gender gap? This is a very general question. And I can actually tell you about a research I actually conducted some years ago in India to show the origins of this gender gap. So going a bit back. Basically, we have always this question in our minds. Is it nature or is it nurture? Okay? So we have many experiments conducted in the Western world that show us that women take less risks, shy away from competition. They are more prone to social preference, you know, to help others. Okay, so we see these differences. They are a fact. They are not a bias. And then we want to ask, where do they come from? Okay? So we came to India, actually to an area like in Shillong, near Shillong, 5 hours from Shillong, and visit two different tribes, a Khasi society and a Karbi society. One is matrilineal, another one's patriarchal. And basically, we conduct the same experiments that we did in US. At the time I was in Chicago University. And we did the same experiments, adapted, of course, to the environment where we were. And we show that in matrilineal societies, the results reverted. So in US, we had 75% of male choosing competitive environment and 35% of women choosing those competitive environments. We replicate more or less these results in Karbi societies, and we observe the inversion in the matrilineal societies. And what was more important was we also conduct these experiments with kids, and we show that this gender difference started to appear only at puberty. So no differences across societies for young kids. So this brings us to this issue that society plays here a very important role. And given that, of course, there's no other way. We have to educate. We have to advocate for policies that break these differences, these biases, these facts. So it's not in our nature necessarily. Okay? So we take less risks because somehow we are, talked that it's not in our, it's not for us. We take less competitive positions because maybe you should focus on other type of jobs. So there is a lot that we should do in terms of education and people being more aware of these differences that many of them are imposed to us, and we grew up with them, and we have to fight them from the beginning. So I think this sort of research is important, and that's why I'm very glad that this opportunity to share with you, because there is a lot that can be done, and has to be done from really young ages, and bring these issues in school programs, but not at university stage. It should be really at early stages, and I think that's.
Thank you. And I guess with AI being such a game changer globally in everything, we don't want to leave women out of the equation now. We need to get stuck into the whole sector, because otherwise we will really emphasize and accelerate the inequality. So we need to learn from the past. Women need to be a part of the whole AI system so that we close those gender gaps. But Ebtison, you might like to comment on the question about from university, lots of women going and studying STEM, but then what happens to them? Where do they go, and why do they not get into STEM in a career?
Very difficult question that I can present the answer for the all women in the world. So let's say it's a human being thing. I don't think it is related to the woman itself. I think it is the nature for the human being, men and women. Some of them, they are taking roles, studies in their universities, but they would like to change their career path. And the second reason, and I think it can play an integral part, most of the women are mothers. And as a mother, maybe you prefer to take care of your family, especially if you have to choose one of them. Unless you have a different answer. The third one, I believe, is the availability of the jobs. You finish your studies, then you have to apply for a job. If you don't have the right network, you can't get into the system. We have unbiased, let's say, education system, but we have biased employee system. And this is, I think, what it can also create there is like 20% now, they are pursuing their career, but 80% they are pursuing their studies. So we have, I believe, a biased employee system, but we have unbiased education system. We empower them to have and to take part into to those STEM education, but at the end, you have to have access to the market. You have to know a colleague, so you can work with your colleague in the same AI project, in the same engineering domain. We heard one of the stories before about the pilots, about your daughter. You already mentioned that examples, and I think maybe also you can share maybe your thoughts about what do you think that why they diverge from also that domain, especially they invested their time and into the study for this specific and difficult subject, engineering and STEM.
Well, yes, I mean, my daughter was unemployed for a while, couldn't get a job, and partly because of the biases that you're talking about. You know, people didn't think that that a young woman, and she's a woman of colour in Australia, would be able to do the same job as a man. So these things, as you said, we grow up with, we absorb, and there are so many different intersections, aren't there? It's not just about being a woman. It's also about being a woman from the global north or the global south. It's about class and caste and, you know, so many intersections that influence the culture and that we internalise and play out in any system that we work in, including the online world. And I think that one of the really important things that we've all talked about today is the fact that, you know, AI, it's for humans, it's for men and women. It's not, we're not interested in it being developed just for its own sake, to have some sort of alien mentality on the earth. It is about us using it and us benefiting from it. And as with so many other sectors where women are not equally benefiting, we need to urgently close the gap. And a lot of that comes back down to standards, to targets, to hard gates, to kind of say, you know, to incentivize business, government and others to include women equally and make sure that women are benefiting equally from it. We had one third question. Pico or Vishnu, did you want to have a go at answering that one?
Yeah, I can take that. So the transparent and understandable AI is a very good question. I think it is also linked to the topic which we have here today as well, because this understandability, transparency basically will lead to equitable solutions. So in that sense, it's a very important question. In my opinion, this particular problem has to be addressed using AI techniques itself. There are new class of models which are upcoming. There is a lot of research which is happening right now. For example, one of our partners, who are academic partners, who are working on this topic, on the research of AI models, they are suggesting graph neural networks which are inherently explainable, so to speak, and transparent, so to speak. And also there are other class of models which are upcoming which are good at reasoning. So you could reason with the model, ask it why you are giving certain type of inference. For example, if you generate a male judge, why are you generating a male judge? Are you having a bias in your data set, training data set or not? This kind of questions and reasoning models are upcoming, but this is a very nascent field. My personal interest as well as my advice for anybody who is searching on this topic would be to focus on the type of AI models which are good at transparency, good at explainability, and good at reasoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Pico, any comments? No? I think we should wind up our panel, and I really just want to thank you all so much. It's been really fascinating. I've learnt a lot, as I said at the outset. I knew I would. So thank you very much, and it's been a pleasure being here with you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We must thank our moderator for steering that wonderful conversation and bringing the best out of such a fantastic panel. Let's hear it once again for them, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for that rich and thought-provoking discussion. And we'd request you to step ahead and give our photographer a group photo opportunity. If a photographer can just take a group photo of our panelists here. And ladies and gentlemen, we have the final thing that we do before some very important announcements that I'm going to make shortly. The word of thanks, the closing remarks. So I'm going to request at this juncture, once this group photo is done, Dr. Hyung Jun Kim, who's going to be joining us. Thank you very much, panelists, once again. Thank you. And with that, it is my privilege to invite Dr. Hyung Jun Kim, Vice Chair of the Network of Women in ITUT, Electronics and Telecommunications Research Institute in the Republic of Korea, to please deliver the closing remarks at this juncture. Let's welcome him with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, hello everyone. Because we all are quite running out of time because we have to go to the restaurant for lunch today. So before my closing remark will be quite short, but before my closing remark, I would like to firstly express my sincere gratitude to those who prepared this very special event today. I feel that this event was quite successful and it was quite inspiring. So I thank you all very much for joining us today and contributing to the important discussion. The insight and experience shared at our Network of Women event provide essential guiding lights to our work in support of this network. So I took over the role of vice chair of this group because of my good friend and colleague, Dr. Lim Sharif. We have already enjoyed a quite excellent working relationship, and I jumped at the chance to support this network together. So thank you, Lim. It's been a great experience for me. And our network is expanding quite fast. Its future looks very bright, I believe, and I thank everyone committed to its success. Today has been particularly inspiring, and it has left me with no doubt that this network will continue growing in strength for many years to come. So I thank our generous host, the Government of India's Department of Telecommunication, for your outstanding support. And I would also like to thank our 6 regional representatives for helping us make this network truly global in scope and ambition. So I'm glad to announce today that we are launching the new mentorship program for ITU standard experts with the aim of ensuring that we meet at the next WTSA even stronger. So I thank you all very much once again and wish you all a very successful event during this week and till the next week. Thank you all for your joining. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kim, for those very thoughtful closing remarks. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before I invite you for the networking luncheon, which is hosted by the Department of Telecommunications, just in hall number 1 on floor 1, I have some very important announcements, and I'd request you to just give me 2 minutes to finish those. Now, first of all, we really request and seek your feedback, ladies and gentlemen. Your feedback for this event is very important to us. And as you join us for lunch, there are these standees where you will find another set of QR codes, and those QR codes will enable you to give us your feedback. On the mobile application, in case you have downloaded that, we also have a special tab. If you click on the feedback tab, you will be able to, again, give us your feedback. And in case you want to do it physically, we have a physical register also outside. So feedback is very important, and we urge you to please find some time and give us your valuable feedback. Also, let me bring your attention to our vibrant cultural corridor, which showcases a variety of stalls that represent the diverse states of India. You're going to find exquisite handicrafts and handlooms there from the states of India. So on your way to lunch or on your return, we invite you to explore this wonderful space, and don't miss the Mehndi stall, where talented henna artists are ready to adorn your palms with beautiful temporary tattoos. So let's make sure we carve out some time to enjoy and indulge in the cultural corridor. Also, ladies and gentlemen, local participants other than the WTSA delegates are also being apprised now that their bags can be collected from the ground floor of Hall 14. So while we're going for lunch and we exit from this, from Bharat Mandapam Hall 1, I'm going to request you to go on to, there's Hall 14, just before you exit, just while going for lunch, as you exit out of that registration area where we all registered, that's exactly where you can find your bag. So this is an announcement for all the local participants other than the WTSA delegates. Now, as far as lunch is concerned, ladies and gentlemen, while the formal deliberations have concluded, we hope that the conversations are going to continue over lunch. Now, listen to this very carefully. For the network of women participants, lunch is arranged in a very exclusive area on the +1 level of Hall 1. How do we reach the venue? We have to proceed to the level 1 of Bharat Mandapam, right? We are going to proceed to the level 1 of Bharat Mandapam. And after exiting from the level 1, we have to make your way towards Hall number 1. It may just get a little confusing, but we just have to exit from level 1 of Bharat Mandapam and make our way towards Hall number 1. Once we reach Hall number 1, the ground floor of the Hall number 1 offers a very common lunch area. Do not confuse that with the exclusive lunch area, which is reserved for the now participants, and that is at the +1 level of Hall number 1. In case there are any confusions, we are going to all go together. We'll all go together, and I guess that will make it simpler. So there's a lot of 1 happening here, right? The level 1 of Bharat Mandapam, from there we exit and go towards Hall number 1. But at the Hall number 1, we go to the first floor, and that's where the lunch is reserved for the now ladies and gents. Okay, so we're going to now proceed, and we'll go together, and I guess the ushers are also going to... ushers will also take us there, just to avoid confusions. But most important is the feedback, ladies and gentlemen. Do give us your feedback. I thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time for feedback. And this is Aishwarya Singh, your host, your master of ceremony. Thank you very much.